Alright, so today we are cleaning this rifle here. This is a Marlin. It's the model 795. It's very similar to the 702 PLINKSTER from MOSBERG, and also a tiny little bit of a few other makes and models kind of put together as kind of like a hybrid. That's my best description of this rifle. It has a little tab here that you can pull down, and that will release your bolt. So it's really handy. You don't actually have to reach the action and pull it back and release it. You can just push that down and it fires forward. One of the features that I really like about this firearm, especially for night shooting and coon hunting, it's a handy feature because I can just stand there with my finger off the trigger. Action, open, rounds in, basically ready to go. And then when you want to fire that forward, and there. If you want to be quiet, that's when you put your hand there and just let it go in gently. If you don't want that click to scare off your prey. So anyways, we are going to be cleaning this. I sold this to a friend of mine, and anyway, he ended up moving and didn't want to take it with him, so I bought it back. And he fired a lot of rounds through it, basically broke the gun in, but didn't take very good care of it. I gave it to him in mint condition, brand spanking new. I only fired it once or twice, and I think I basically put a magazine through it. That was it. And then now I got it back. I should have knocked $50 off at least, because he basically didn't take any care of it, and it's dirty as fuck. It's all rusty. I mean, it was a beautiful blue barrel. I mean, it was a cheap gun, but still, I don't know. Kind of, sort of a shame, that's all I'll say. So it's, yeah, the barrel's just starting to pit, and if I don't clean this, it's just going to be a fucked up gun. So I'm going to clean it, and hopefully we can save it and resurrect it. I haven't looked in the barrel yet because I need to bore swab it and all that. It's just filled with residue. So one thing I forgot about my kit here is a bore light. I'll just grab it. Right, this is one thing we're going to need. So what we're going to do first thing is take this gun apart and start cleaning. I've got all my Allen tools. I don't know what size I need. I've never cleaned this gun before. I haven't even looked at a video yet, actually, but it's pretty straightforward, I would imagine. These kind of guns are easy to work on. When you got the bolt block and all that, and it's just basically sliding pieces inside a metal body there, and you know, a couple springs and whatnot, a couple rails that they ride on there. Pretty simple to work on. I have a Savage. I've done a video on that one, and I'm just, I don't want to take it apart. It's very complicated. It's sort of got a lot of little pins and things that I don't want to take out, and I know it's just going to be a nightmare. So that gun sort of just sits on hold. I'd sell it if someone wants to pay what I paid for it, but most people, they're trying to underdock it, and I'm not even replying to those comments really. So, but anyways, this Marlin, you just take out these two screws that are holding the gun to the stock. And this stock is just polymer black plastic. I'm actually thinking about painting it. I don't know what color yet, and I'm thinking about doing a design on one. Actually, I don't want to do just a straight camo all the time. I've got enough camo guns. I'd kind of like to do sort of a just a design of some form on it, and sort of just make it customized in that form. But so yeah, I've taken these two screws. Now they're two different sizes. You don't want to mess them up. The shorter one goes in the front. The longer one I just pulled out of the back. So put those away in order, and I think we just push this. I don't want to break anything. Oh, I see. Okay, it's going to be interesting. I don't know about this. There's this metal tab here that comes in the way. I'm going to see if this plastic thing comes off first. It does. Okay, I get this. So I should have pushed this back together actually. There. So I can get this plastic thing off first. So I didn't know that that came off separate. That's your trigger. That's all it is. And now I think the rifle will just fall off the stock. There we go. So, just get the magazine out of the way. This is all plastic. I'm sure there's a metal upgrade. If not, it'd be really easy to make one, I'm sure, or have someone make one. But plastic, I mean, it's fine for me right now. But it's one thing. This is a cheap gun. It was about $180. So, there. So here we go. We've got a little more build up, just like the Savages, which is sort of interesting. So I think there's a dropout pin. I can see one there. If I knock that out, I think I'm just guessing the barrel might come out. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I'd like to take out the trigger grouping if I can. I don't know if I'm going to go that far. Oh, here we go. Let's see what happens. Ah, here we go. Perfect. So shit, that was easy. Beautiful. So I just took out this one little pin that held this all into place. Now this I'm not going to take apart. That'd be ridiculous. Trying to get that back together. What you do is you just take your toothbrush and you just clean it, debrief it. If you have an air compressor, blow it out. Perfect. Just don't knock these pins out. Most of them are put in with a set plate. I forget the name of these things, but it's irrelevant. If you do, cool. Comment it. But I'm going to bring this up closer so you guys can kind of see it. So, it's covered in dust. I mean, it's actually not extremely dirty, but it is dirty. This thing's a little gritty, so we're going to clean that. I'll just put this off to the side for a second. Now, this is your bolt that slides back and forth. That's right inside here. And it's on a spring and a rod, basically. Here, I'm just trying to get this so you guys can kind of see. There you go. So, now I gotta figure out how this comes out. My guess is it just pulls out. Get that out of the way. And that comes out like so. So it's very similar to the, this setup here is almost exactly like the Marlin 702 PLINKSTER. As far as this piece goes, I'd say this is a Marlin a MOSBERG 702 PLINKSTER, almost. So, but I mean, it is a Marlin. So, I'm just saying in comparison of if you own a 702 PLINKSTER, it'll be almost easier to clean than your 702 PLINKSTER, I think. So, what I have here is a 22 cleaning kit. Sort of just goes with it, and the only two I really use are these two. And the way I go and the way that I was taught with the C4 clean guns is the first thing you do is you drop a little drop of oil down your barrel. What I like is this White Lightning. This is actually a chain lube. It's a dry lube. It is a lubricant for all conditions. Basically, it's good for derailleurs, cables, all that, and it prevents gunk buildup. So it's exactly what you want on a 22, especially if you're shooting lead. I like to shoot copper jackets. You don't have so much lead buildup personally, but I think the lead lubricated bullets probably fly a little bit better. Now I use my metal bore brush to go through first before I swab it. So I go through and then back. Now it doesn't matter, people like to think that you should always push the bore brush with the direction of bullet flow, or bullet direction. Now, that's, if you can only do that, or if you can, that is the best way to do it. Like, if you can take your bolt off your sniper rifle and push the the bore brush through that way. That's probably the best way to do it. But I mean, another way is I can put it together inside and then just pull through, and that's fine. But however, I've learned a new way that a lot of gunsmiths have told me to do it. Now, in the military, that's the way we did it. Just always the bullet direction out. It's the only way we ever pulled them. But I've seen a lot of gunsmiths and talked to a lot of gunsmiths, and they've actually told me to do it this way. And you scrub it. Because these brushes are way softer than your barrel steel ever will be. And if you scrub it, that really gets the rifling out. Gets all your lead out of your rifling. So now we're just going to put a little bit of this same grease onto here, and we're going to do one run through with the swab. And now I'm just rubbing some of this stuff off because drying out my cloth. This stuff actually dries out real quick, so it's pretty good. I mean, I don't have any grease or anything on my hands when I rub it. Now we go with our hops. I really like the hops for cleaning. It's not a lubricant, really. It's a cleaner, and it helps break down some of that lead and gunk build up. So, ooh, look at all that shit. That just came out of my gun. So, I do want to look inside that barrel now. I know it was really gunky when I looked in there last time. I should have showed that on the camera. But, ooh, nice. Actually, that's blinding. You'll be able to see that, I'm sure. Just a second. Alright. So, I got it cleaned. I'll just look at it through here. I can see all the rifling. It's actually really clean inside. So, the gun's fine. Now it's just cosmetics. So when it comes to a gun, basically, all it is a firing pin and your barrel. That's what makes it good. Trigger is part of it, and then the action. But really, if you can get that firing pin to hit right and send that bullet down here, that's what makes a good gun. I don't care what anyone else tells you or says. I know for a fact that's what makes a good gun. Anything else is just marketing or just preference and whatnot. I could just go out with this, have a hammer on the end of this pipe, basically, to hit that pin, and I could still hunt. I could still take down anything, because that's what the gun is. That's what makes the gun good. So, I just wanted to get that out, because a lot of people, they spend a lot of money on guns, and there's perfectly good guns that are cheap. It's just that, people, they think that because they're spending more, they're getting a good gun, and that's not necessarily true. And it is in some cases, but not all cases. I mean, in my opinion, a Browning is sort of like the shotgun for hipsters. It's got a gold trigger and all that, and I know they only make a certain amount, and they're a beautiful gun, and the craftsmanship's on them wonderful, but personally, I don't want to spend that much money on just a shotgun that's nothing special, I mean, now I know I'm going to get a bunch of Browning haters on me. I mean, I've got a Browning hat on, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that I mean, a shotgun is a shotgun. Rifle's a rifle, but it's the barrel that makes the gun, and that's that. And so yeah, that's the part you really want to make sure is clean. And now I'm just taking a toothbrush with my hops, and I'm just scrubbing the inside of this cavity that all the guts sit in, just to get it all cleaned up of debris. Take one of my swabs here. looks like the camera killed out. So here we are. We're going to try this again. What I just did was took the gun apart. I'm really hoping that's in the video. So anyhow, we've just cleaned this barrel. I've ran a bore brush through. We ran a bore light, and it was shining through. It looked good, and now we've just covered in hops because of the rust starting to surface on the barrel. So we're just going to set that off to the side. And this, just a stock, just take your dry rag here. Just give it a wipe down. So, put that out of the way for the second. The bore brush can go out of the way. We are done with that. Now we're on to cleaning the bolt. This part, there's a few different ways you can do it. What I like to do is just take my toothbrush, dip that back into the hops, and just scrub it. Now you can tell he was doing a lot of rapid firing because the bolt is pretty scored. It's got a lot of blacking on it, so he got it pretty hot, I can tell that. But the gunk's coming off. Actually, I'll tell you the truth, he didn't do as much rapid firing as I did with the MOSBERG 702 PLINKSTER. I burnt that one. Like it got all blued and scarred all through here. I was a little trigger happy when I first bought it. So, but anyway, it was a cheap gun, so. And I sold that one for, I think it was $120 with a scope, which wasn't too bad of a deal. And Buddy's happy with it. Still shoots true. Alright. Now there's this cavity inside here that your spring ride's in. If you can get something in there to clean that out, that's probably a good idea. What I have here is just a little Allen tool that's smaller than the cavity, and I'm just going to go in there and scrape it out and take my toothbrush and try and get some oil in there, the hops, and what you want now is this firing pin to flow freely in here. Here when I shake it, and when I drop it, I don't even know if you can see this, but there is a firing pin in here with where the hammer hits right in this notch here. And you basically want, here I'm just going to do this, so pushes there and it pushes your firing pin forward, and you want your firing pin to be free. So that needs a little bit more scrubbing, because when I push it up it does catch. I'm going to take my dry rag, dry this off a bit, get some of that residue. I'm going to try my white lightning. I like that really good for this part because of the fact it's a dry lube. And this is one of the parts that gets gunky, because the back of the shell casing is sitting on these extractors here, and it can, yeah, you're going to get powder in there a little bit. So it does get a little gummy. So that's where I just run some white lightning in here into these tracks of the extractor. And you can use your fingers just to rub it in, or the toothbrush. But I don't want to use a toothbrush because it's got hops on it. And my dry rag, just take off the excess, because if you don't do that, you can get more buildup. If you have a wet bolt or wet parts that are covered with lube, you end up with more of a chance of jamming, more chance of building up gunk and stuff like that. So you want them sort of dry, but yet free-flowing, and just enough lube just to keep them going. But in this case, it's this is a dry lube. It'll dry right out pretty quick. So by the time I'm firing this sucker, I don't need to worry about that, because this gun's just about to go into storage, just hang on my wall pretty much for the time being. So I got that flowing enough. I mean, it works. And if anything pushes against it, it's going to automatically close. So I'll see if you guys can see anything, but there is a firing pin. When I push that up, that's the firing pin that hits your rim fire. So that's clean now. Now we got this little guy. He's just a grab handle, so you don't even need to really do anything but wipe them down. If there's any crud buildup on it, you'll want to get that off, because of course that's going to cause friction when you're shooting, and the more friction you have, the more energy is needed to push that bolt back, and that is more likely to jam if it's not enough energy to push it. So that's all. This is your little rod. I just give it a wipe. If he's got gunk on it, go ahead and give him a good clean, but that doesn't need to be done. Now this is my spring. I just dip it in the hops, and all that does is just sort of cleans it ever so slightly, and just sort of boink, you know, you're just knocking it dry, basically. Just gently dry it off. You don't want to distort your spring. And I'll just run a bead of my white lightning on it, just to protect it. That's it's a dry lube, and that'll just prevent rust. We'll put that back in there. So I believe all we gotta do now is just clean this, and then we are ready to put us back together. So I've got my hops covered toothbrush, and I'm just giving it a brushing. There's no sense in taking this apart. You'll be working all day getting it back together. Unless your trigger's not working properly or something, then yeah, you're going to have to tweak stuff or take it to a gunsmith. But for this, I'm just cleaning. Now give it a little bit of a dry. Make sure your parts are clean of any kind of dust, and just run a couple drops of your white lightning on it. This one's called White Lightning Epic Ride, just if I haven't showed it. And I'm not trying to sell a product, nothing, but I highly recommend it. I learned about it when I was working in the bike stores, and anything that works on bikes, it actually works pretty good on guns, and vice versa. So that's where I sort of ended up using gun cleaners for chains and stuff, and then the bike store started bringing in very similar lubes. So, but it's cheaper at the gun store, I think, than some of the bike lubes. This one's actually pretty reasonable, around 20 bucks for a jug, and this will last you a long time. I've had this for about 3 years. So, alright, so now we're sticking this thing back together, and to take it apart, it's just reverse of this and vice versa. I think I've got taken the part down. If not, I will reshoot it anyway. So, alright, I take my dry rag, just clean this off because it's soaking in the hops. It looks like I got some of the rust off. There's still just ever so slight here. So, but I might paint this gun. Alright. Well, this will be better, because it sort of was bothering me that it was unattended like that. So, put it back together. We got our bolt block and this. This guy, you want to put in there because he's going to need to be in there when you drop this in place. And looks like that's a good spot for it to sit because there's a notch where this little key fits. Right there. So we put the spring in with your bolt end back. Here's Cosmos. Actually, sorry, I think I have this backwards. Looks like it goes this way. I think. Just a second. Oh, okay, never mind. It's not quite like the guns I'm used to. There's a little nub here, just on the end of this pin, and that just sits into this groove. There. It's not a deep at all groove, so you don't stick your pin in there like a lot of the guns. It just sits and rides there. So that makes things a little easier. And this goes into here, and you got to gently push that straight so it goes like that. You don't want to buckle your spring when you put it in here. So that's probably the hardest part of this job here. And I got it sort of in place. I gotta get this back in there. Because you need to get this guy right in where it belongs, otherwise when you pull it, it's not going to work. There you go. So, I got it there, and you pull this back and it slides forward. So this thing moves a little bit back and forth once you get to that pin that I was talking about, that pinhole there. So now we just take our trigger group, and it looks like we just plop it back into place. Gently, of course. You don't want to mess anything up. Okay, so I just pull this back to that safe point where the bolt holds open. And you can push it inwards to hold it in. Then your trigger group just drops into place. Take your pin, stick it back in there. Well, sorry. Hold down and it goes in this side. There, snapped in. So now our trigger group's back together. So I pulled that back. Now it works. Hold that though, nothing happens. So you do have a safety hold open, which I didn't know about. So, all right. Now we put this stock in place. So it goes back first and rocks in. We want this on first. That would make sense. So, now this might be interesting. I think it just plops into place. There we go. Now we're going to find out if it works. Just put it back together. And I believe we are done cleaning. Okay, looks like I figured this out. The trigger grouping's in. I don't have my peg in yet. This goes back, sets that hammer. And there's a button here that you need to push, but this needs to be down for it to work. So when I put it in, for some reason this was not being held down. I think that's because this wasn't going in up against it. Something like, I'm not 100% sure, but there's something very weird about this. So when I put it back together, I gotta try to do it in a way that it wants to sit. As you can see, when I push this down like that, and then I push this, see, that doesn't work, but when I do that, it does. You see? Trying to get that hammer to go forward, but I take this metal slide, push it up, then hold it, and that fires forward. So, perhaps the trick is to put it in not loaded. First of all, hammer forward. I don't know. I'm just going to try it. That's normally not the right way to do it, though. Yeah, it won't go in there. Yeah, so the hammer's got to be back like normal. It does fit, but what pushes this up? We need to figure that out. We have to keep this slide up when we put it together. So this pin doesn't seem to have anything to do with it, so I'm going to put that in so our trigger group's in. Now when I put it in here, nothing happens. So there's something really weird about that. Unless it's got something to do with it needs a magazine in. That looks like it's it. There's our problem. Magazine's got to be in. Okay, that's an easy fix. So cool. We're going to try this again now. Just put it back together. And I guess you can't dry fire this gun unless it's got a magazine or something. So yeah, it's one of these ones that kind of sit cocked, I guess. That's sort of a downside. But we got that figured out. It's not that big of a deal. It's not the end of the world. There was nothing wrong with the way I put it back together. It's just when you put the magazine in, it pushes that tab. That sort of a safety tab, I guess. So I guess you can't... I would assume that you cannot single shoot this. You can't sort of put your finger in here like some rifles. If you lose the magazine, you have to put your finger in here and catch the round and try and put it in there to single shoot. Well, with this gun you can't do that unless you stick something in like a magazine. And there, I just dry fired it. So there you go. It does work. It holds open, fires forward, shoots. So it is clean and functioning. Nothing seems to be too wrong with it, other than I probably want to fix that front sight. Or I could just put a scope on it and get it shooting true again. So there you go. That's how to clean this rifle. It was pretty simple actually, and I was a little unsure about a couple parts because A is the first time I've ever done it, and also I don't have a manual for it or anything like that. When I bought the gun, I think I just got the gun, and if I have the manual, it's among all my other papers and I haven't found it yet. So here we are, we've figured it out. So there you go.